So, good morning, everyone. And my name is Roberta. I am from the production engineering department. And we are here today to have the seminar related to the USP-COFECUB project. And it's about social currencies in France and Brazil, pathways to sustainable development. And we have this program from 9 to 12 today. And sorry, because we are a little bit late today. And thank you for the audience in the room and for people who are with us online. Thank you very much for being here with us in this morning. And I'm just say something about the project, just introduce to you the project. It's a 2 years project. Yes, it's a pleasure to have here Professor Jerome and Leo with us and all the group, and Tiziana, Marli, and I. We are very happy to have you all here in Brazil. And it's a shame that it's cold. Yeah, maybe we need to plan the mission another time of the year next year. Let's see. Yeah. And so just to introduce something about your lab in Brazil. And we have the Sustainability and Circular Economy Lab in Brazil. And most of the research team is with us today, the postdocs and PhD students. And we have been working for some time with circular economy and sustainability. And social currency, it's very important from our perspective because it can be a technological innovation or a social innovation, yeah, that can promote the transition to sustainable society and circular society, yeah. That's why we are very interested in this topic. And we have it's a pleasure for us because we have been in to have collaboration with different universities and different research groups, as you see here, like Copenhagen Business School, and now we have University of Lyon also, and University of Oxford. We have some people who have been doing the postdoc with us and doing an internship in the University of Oxford and Monash University also in Australia. And we have been getting support from different agencies, but mainly from FAPESP. That's the main agency, support agency to research in the state of in the São Paulo state. And so it's a very good collaboration. And our research group is related to Polytechnic School at University of São Paulo. And the coordinator is Marli Monteiro de Carvalho. I am the vice coordinator of this group. And so we have been trying to get more and more collaboration. Now it's a pleasure to have the collaboration with France also and the University of Lyon here. Here we have the research group specifically to French COFECUB project, yes. And from French side, we have Professor Jerome here with us, Leo, a PhD candidate, yes, and Professor Ione and Marie-Fé. Is that right? And from Brazilian side, we have me, Marli Monteiro de Carvalho, Tiziana, who is here with us also, Eduardo Diniz from FGV, and Renato he's a PhD candidate, and he is with us in the online audience. Thank you very much. And here we have the people that we have here today online and also in this room, yeah, doing the seminar with us today. And we are going to start with Professor Jerome, after this Leo, and Leonardo Martins from FGV. I don't know if Leonardo is with us already. I can see you, Leonardo. Sorry if I don't see you online. And Christian also, and from Germany, I assumed, yeah. And Renato also, and Alison. Alison is a postdoc from our research group in Brazil. And he will be online because he's in Oxford. He is doing the collaboration, some collaboration time with Professor Paulo Savaget in the University of Oxford, okay? And he'll be online, and he's also working with social currents from system dynamic perspectives, okay? And here is this program today. We are quite flexible, yeah, but the idea is to have all these in-person seminars, yeah, talks. That's the first ones that we are going to have, yeah. And after that, we are going to have a break, like 10 minutes break to have a coffee and some water, okay? And after that, we are going to participation of people online, okay? And we are going to finish, I would say about 12 or maybe before this, okay? And so let's start. So I invite Professor Jérôme to start the talks for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present parts of our works and discuss, of course, of our respective works and try to identify also the kind of collaboration we can implement. I'm going this morning to present mostly results of a national survey we implemented. Thank you. We did a few years ago with Marifar and Oriane Lafuente Sampietro, who maybe are online. I can check, and who are part of the project. So a few results from this survey, and okay, maybe. Okay. Thank you. That works. And so a few things to start with. In France, the first case of convertible local currency to be used in the ordinary economy of local neighborhoods or local regions is the case of the Abeille in the south western part of France in 2010. And we can also present the most important case today in France and in Europe as to the number of users and money supply, which is the case of the EUSCO in the southwestern part of France too, in the Basque country. On these local currencies, there has been much works since then, and we notably did two national surveys with my colleagues in 2020 and in 2023, and it's about the second one that I'm going to say a few things. Here you've got an updated graph of the number of local currencies in France of Group 4. As far as you remember the presentation I did yesterday with the various groups of alternative currencies. And we can see that since the birth of the first case in 2010, there has been a strong rise of the number until 2019, and then a kind of plateau. So 2010 launch of the Abeille, 2013 launch of the EUSCO, and then there has been important milestones for the realm of local currencies in France, with a law which was on social and solidarity economy. It was voted in 2014, and it included an article that made legal things that were called complementary and local currencies. This was an important law for various reasons. Maybe after then we can say some things about that. At the end of 2015, there is an important movie, kind of documentary, which played a very important role for activists and for legitimation of local currency projects. It was the movie Demain, Tomorrow. And in 2016, there was another law on which dealt notably on the possibility to develop small, quite easily small digital local currency projects. Then 2017-18, there is a trial between from the state to a municipality in the southwestern part of France. Trial because the state disagree with the will of the municipality to use the local currency in its expenses, and this led to an agreement which was a bit disappointing because it authorized some kind of indirect use of local currencies by municipalities. So this is possible, but this is not easy. Then you've got this plateau, which is characterized by the COVID-19 crisis, of course, but the plateau, I think we would have reached the plateau anyway, even if the crisis led to a kind of worsening of the situation. And at the end of the period, we start to observe new food security experiments that are notably related to local currency, to local currencies. So this is a very general picture of the dynamics of local currencies in France. Now, a series of questions and results of this survey. So how many are they? We've seen the number just there, actually. We observe, working on the preparation and the launch of these currencies, that there can be quite a long time before launching the currency between the first moment in which the ID is collectively discussed and the moment in which the currency is launched. 38 months on average, and this ranges from 5 months to 8 years. So in some cases, in one case, the preparation was very long because it lasted 8 years. And a quarter of them developed a test phase before launching definitively the currency. We worked on the objectives of these local currencies. We asked in a question, an open question, to write 5 objectives which were considered as the main objectives of the local currency by the association managers. And working on these verbatim, using a multiple component analysis, we identified 4 groups of local currencies which have different purposes, different objectives, and these objectives are related to different characteristics. So there is a kind of link between objectives and characteristics of the local currency. I think I don't have the time to develop all these things, but the point is that, for example, we have in this case the sub case of the 4th group, something which is very related to a kind of activism and refusal of, for example, local government or the engagement with local governments. They are quite small things in quite large rural territories with many volunteer activism, a currency which is only or mostly on paper only, and this contrasts with other cases. For example, this second group, in which there is a kind of, these are rather urban and mixed territories with digital orientation. So currencies are maybe not only in the digital form, but they are very frequently mixing paper and digital form. There is an orientation toward supporting local association through the activity of the local currency and so on. So we have various cases. They are not all the same. And the promoters of these local currencies do not seek the same thing. And this leads to various characteristics. How do they work? So maybe I should have started with that. It's anyway something very simple. You've got an issuing association. A member exchanges his official currency and gets local currency. The issuing association puts the official currency in the guarantee fund, and there is the stake of knowing in which kind of bank the guarantee fund has to be deposited. Then the member exchanges or buys things in the network of the users. So you have here the circulation of the currency with people as consumers, people as workers, businesses and non-profit organizations, and possibly local governments and related organizations. And then the providers, the professional ones, have the possibility to convert back the local currency with the issuing association. The users themselves, the individual users can't. This is something which is quite close to what we know in Brazil, actually. So this leads to a few questions, but I won't develop that. Now, the currency, what does it look like? We see, if we compare the two surveys we did in 2019 and 2023, we see that the paper format, sorry, it's reversed. There is a problem here. You have to read the French. So the paper format was really dominating the landscape in 2019. It still dominates in 2023, but it's less important due to the impressive rise of the mixed solution of paper with digital currency. We have very few cases with only digital formats. Then the matter of circulation, do they circulate? That's an interesting point, because at some extreme of the possibilities, local currencies can be issued, provided to someone who spends it to a shop, and the shop converts back the local currency. In that case, it's something that is not more than a voucher. So the point of the reconversion rate is an interesting point, because this shows if the local currency really circulates more than one time in the local economy. And this is shown depending on the size of the currency. We divided the local currencies depending on their size. I will go back on that point a bit later. And we see that the more, roughly, the more the local currency is big, so the bigger the local currency, the lower is the reconversion rate, which should mean that the currency circulates more when the network is important and the money supply is important. On another thing. Overall, in France, these are approximative figures about the size of this local currency economy. We have, at the end of the period, a money supply of a bit more than 7 million euros, with a bit more than 10,000 professional providers in the networks and 36,000 individual users. This is overall. If we compare with Brazil, and if we include in Brazil the municipal currencies, this is very small due to the importance of the Maricas case and the case of Niterói. If we excluded Niterói and Marica, maybe this could be comparable. I don't know exactly, but in Brazil, there are these two very important cases as to the number of users and the money supply, and this makes comparisons may be difficult. Here is the point of size and extent. If we have a look at individual initiatives, local currencies separated from one from the others. In that case, we see that the median, which is maybe a better indicator than the average due to very different extents, very different cases, we see that the money supply on average in the median is something like 26,000 euros, which is not that much, while the biggest at that time, the EUSCO, had a money supply of 3,670,000 euros. So very big gaps between the local currencies, because the smallest one had a money supply of only 2,550 euros. So we find the same problem of the same inequality between local currencies with the number of individual users. The median is at 204, and the number of providers, the median is 94. Okay, maybe I won't develop this because the risk is that I am too long. We observe, if we think in terms of why local currency, or what are the reasons for local currency to be bigger than others, we see that there are various factors, including the digital form. Paper currencies are usually related to smaller schemes, and switching to a digital form leads to new possibilities that can lead to a bigger size. We also see, it's quite intuitive anyway, that higher budgets for the association leads to bigger local currencies, but this effect is for the biggest ones. I mean, in order to be in the few biggest ones, local currencies must rely on a budget which is much higher than the others. So at some point, having something like more than 1,000 members and more than 100,000 euros, this requires to have a really important budget. And the point is, where does the budget come from? It notably comes from the public support. So at some point, one important thing, in order to circulate more, to have more members, is to get a public support that helps circulate the money, but also that helps get funds in order to hire workers. So that's maybe the most important point. Money doesn't circulate or doesn't expand by itself. These associations need workers in order to make money circulate, to extend the network and so on. So who are the workers? Workers can be wage earners, can be interns, and can be volunteers. Here, this is for the smallest local currencies, and when we go to the right part, the right part of the table, we are in the biggest ones. So the biggest local currencies can have more than 40 persons working for the association, and this is mostly provided by volunteers, 35. But these biggest local currencies have, on average, 5.3 wage earners, while the smallest ones only have 0.4 on average wage earners. If we think in terms of full-time equivalent of work, we also find this very important difference. The biggest ones can benefit from 10 full-time equivalent, while the smallest one just have 2.1 full-time equivalent. And these full-time equivalent, quite small, only mostly comes from volunteers. These are organizations which try to implement kinds of democratic decision making. And what we can observe is that they don't only rely on majority vote, but most try to implement other kinds of decision making, which can be trying to get a consensus, which means trying to get sharing the decision between everyone, or getting the consent, which is a bit different because this means that everyone consent to a decision, while it's possible that some do not agree, but it's not important enough to refuse. Okay, so they consent to the decision. These are processes that can take time, much more time than majority vote. So there is a kind of commitment of many local currency associations in a kind of deepened democratic governance. How much time do I have? Maybe 5 minutes, something like that, yeah? Okay. So they get supports from local governments and local public organizations, and these supports can be as follow. There can be funding, which is a very important thing. In blue, these are the results of the first national survey. In orange, this is the results of the second one. Local governments can also provide premises and equipments. They can let public utilities be paid in local currency. They can themselves spend things in local currency, actually indirectly, not directly, because it's not allowed in France. They can be, this is in very few cases, they can be at the origin of the project. They can provide moral support, which maybe is a bit symbolic, but symbols matter at some point. They can provide connections with actors of the territory, trying to facilitate the organization and the development of the local currency. They, in some cases, quite a few ones, they can be included in the governance of the organization. And in a few cases, there can be conflicts, but we see that it's not so developed. Conflicts are not so developed. So what for public funding? This is mostly for supporting social and solidarity economy. So local currency associations are considered as organizations of the social and solidarity economy, and as such, they can receive funds from the local governments. They can also receive funds due to objectives of the local governments to support the proximity economy, relocalization, short circuits, and then environment and ecological transition. So these are the three main reasons why local governments can support local currency organizations. And you see other motifs, but for example, digital or democracy are very few, are not very important in the motives for being supported by local governments. And maybe an interesting thing in order to compare with Brazil, the motive of fighting against poverty, working on inclusion, employment, is a very marginal motive in France. So I wanted to conclude with the idea of territorial development, because after the first national survey, we, with Marifar and Oriane Lafuente-Sampietro, we worked on how the present-day local currencies promote or support the territorial development. And we use the term territorial development with reference to the works of André Thor. He defines territorial development by production and governance. So it's not only a matter of, of rising GDP, for example, it's a matter of governing the territory and of developing the relations between the actors of the territory. And the actors of the territory can be businesses, but they are all the other organizations that are implemented, that are present in the territory. So this includes also, for example, NGOs and various kinds of social and solidarity economy organizations. In that case, local currencies may have roles as a matchmaker, as orchestrators, as mediators, as funders. Maybe I don't have the time to develop. We built a kind of modelization, intellectual modelization of the process, which could lead local currencies to produce the territorial development. And by the way, the conclusions were negative. We found that in the present development of local currencies, they don't promote a territorial development because they have still small monetary networks, as we've seen, with the exception of 1 or 2 or maybe 3 in the country. They don't develop enough coordination of the local actors, and they don't develop they don't develop enough partnerships with them. Sorry. They don't have enough links to local governments. So it's not really, they are not really tools for the territorial development so far, but we think that it's not, they are not doomed to fail in this role. There are possibilities. Okay, I stop here. In fact, thank you for listening.
And I think that it's very important for us, all these categories, yes? I'm just thinking about Renato PhD thesis and all the survey that we need to do in the other projects. And it's very insightful because there are different variables that you consider. And so we can talk later about the questions and comments. Yeah, thank you very much, Jerome. And so Leo now, yeah? In this model, like hybrid model, it's better to just leave the comments and suggestions after all the talks. Yes, that's why we are going to have like a Leo, and after that Leonardo. Yeah, Leonardo from FGV, and so we can do some comments after that. Okay, and open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm very glad to be here, and I will present my working paper entitled Constraint to Commit: Empirical Evidence on the Effect of French Complementary Local Currency on Pro-Environmental Behaviors and Perceptions. So. So thank you. So yes, amid the perceived limited impact of green monetary policies or green financial tools, some grassroots monetary innovations are emerging. And among them, complementary local currencies have sparked some debate about their ability to generate some environmental benefits. And so there are many theoretical papers that argue that local currency may generate some environmental benefits by supporting green and local consumption patterns, or by increasing the environmental awareness and knowledge of users. But in fact, these benefits remain potential benefits, and we have not a lot of empirical studies on the environmental benefits and effects of local currencies. So this paper aims to fill this gap by answering the following question: do local currencies foster more environmentally friendly consumption practices and perceptions? And so regarding consumption practices, in other words, we try to assess if local currency generates some symbolic changes or structural changes. So symbolic changes refer to the case in which the means of payment change, but not the underlying consumption patterns, while structural changes refer to the case where, by changing the means of payment, we also have some change of consumption practices. So to answer this question, we study French local currency using the first micro-level counterfactual dataset on individual users. But because we face some limitation inherent to the study of local or complementary currency, we use a mixed method approach to address the key limitations that face the studies on complementary currency. So briefly, the results suggest that under some condition, local currency may support greener consumption patterns, while they have no effect on environmental awareness and knowledge, at least this local currency. So we really aim and try to bridge between, on the one hand, behavioral economics, and on the other hand, socioeconomics and sociology of money. So briefly, to introduce the literature on the environmental impact of local currency. So I conduct a systematic literature review 1 year ago, and I found 35 studies on the environmental impact of environmental complementary currencies. So the complementary currencies that aim to generate some environmental benefits, and among them, complementary local currencies were the type of scheme with the highest number of papers. So we found 12 papers on the environmental impact of local currency. But in fact, most of them suffer from some limitation. And the main limitation is the fact that so some studies find some effect of local currency, but we cannot know if these effects are due to the use of the currency, so through this channel, or if the effects are due to pre-existing differences between users and non-users, for instance, that are determinant of the adoption of a local currency rather than outcomes of the use of the currency. So for instance, through this channel. So we have some biases such as self-selection biases, only specific users use the currency such that they have then specific outcomes that are not due to the use of the currency, but they're due to their pre-existing characteristics, reverse causality, for instance. So yes, we really try to disentangle between the effects that are due to the use of the currency and the determinants of the currency use. So to do it, we study the lien, that means the link. This is a local currency, the link in French, that is a local currency that circulates in the northwestern part of the Haute-Loire department and southern Haute-Loire, but in fact, most businesses are in Saint-Étienne, the biggest city of the area. So this currency is interesting because it's quite representative of other local currency in France. So based on the study of Jérôme, Marie, and Oriane, in terms of user base, circulation volume, operating budget, and lifespan. And so briefly, so businesses can accept payment in lien only if they respect some environmental, ecological, and social criteria, and if they are on the local territory. And they can convert unit of lien into euros, but they have to pay some fees to do so, while users, individual users, cannot reconvert unit of local currency into euros. They are forced to use their unit of local currency within the network of participating businesses. So to make it a bit more concrete, so here are the bills of the lien, but in fact today most transactions are conducted through the digital payment application. So to analyze the different materials we have, quantitative and qualitative one, we develop a theoretical framework based on the theory of plain behaviors. So we use this theoretical framework because the theory of plain behaviors has been already used to study the decision to adopt some crypto or digital currency, but also to explain why some individuals consume green products while others do not. So in this framework, we can assume that first individuals form an intention to use the currency, and then they use the currency, they effectively use the currency when they have the relevant opportunities to do so. So in fact, to have the intention to use the currency, individual must have a sufficient level of behavioral belief. They must have a positive attitude toward the currency and its potential effects. They must also, or they may have some normative beliefs. So they may have some social pressure to use the currency, to have the intention to use it. And in fact, they must have a sufficient level of control belief. They must be confident in their ability to use the unit of local currency if they get some of them. So if they have this different type of belief, then they form an intention to use the currency. And we assume in our empirical setting that the only difference between users, so treated individual, and non-users, control individual, is the fact that some have the opportunity to use the currency, and as they have the intention to use, when they have the opportunity, they start using the currency, while control users have the intention to use the currency, but they do not have the opportunity to use the currency. They do not live in the territory of circulation of the currency, but they would have used the currency if one were available in their territory. So that's H1, our identification assumption. We assume that users and non-users have the same level of belief. They have the same level of pre-existing pro-environmental consumption patterns, same pre-existing level of environmental awareness and knowledge, for instance. But the only difference between the two groups is the fact that some have the opportunity to use the currency while the others do not. And so then users have to choose the way they use the currency. So they can use the currency either through a voluntary use. They convert units of euros into units of local currency on a voluntary basis, or they may have a self-constrained use of the currency. This is the case in which they receive more units of local currency than the amount they would have voluntarily converted. So for instance, think about individuals that receive some wage payments in unit of local currency, so they receive a share of their wage in local currency, or self-employed professional that receive some payments in unit of local currency. And so they have to find new ways to spend local currency unit as they receive more than the amount they would have voluntarily converted. And so for this reason, because they receive more units than the amount they would have voluntarily converted, we assume that these individuals are more likely to make their consumption patterns more environmentally friendly and local following the use of the currency. The difficulty we have is to disentangle between the effects of the currency, but these effects may also fuel the adoption of the currency. So for instance, people that already have green and local consumption patterns may have a higher of control belief, as if they spend already euros in green and local businesses, then they are very confident in their ability to spend unit of local currency in the same businesses. And similarly, people with higher level of knowledge and awareness are more likely to have a positive attitude to use the currency and thus more likely to use the currency. Okay, sorry. So to test this framework, so we use the first counterfactual dataset on complementary local currency users. So based on a survey administered to 37 users and 31 non-users. So we have a very small sample size, but in fact a broad range of variables. And so we can study 6 environmental outcomes: environmental awareness and knowledge, demand for environmentally sustainable versus non-environmentally sustainable product. So in fact, we compare the demand for meat versus plant-based alternative to meat. And we also look at the shares of local and organic product consumed. So based on the type of variables, we use either OLS or Probit model. But because we have a small sample size and we cannot collect longitudinal data due to the long-standing existence of the Lien currency, we conduct 30 semi-structured interviews, mostly with respondents to the questionnaire. But we also conduct 3 interviews with members of the MLCC 42 Association, which is the association that manages the currency, so that it allows us to ensure that the absence of the currency on the territory in which control users live is due to a random factor. So in fact, we first collect quantitative data, then we collect qualitative data to test, to ensure that our empirical strategy holds, but also to define the model we are going to test and to discuss the effect and the causal mechanism behind our effect. And so in fact, interviews help us to say that the identification assumption holds. The difference between users and non-users that we observe are attributable or are likely to be attributable to the use of currency. So we make some robustness check, but I will not develop them. So the results, so as I already said, we find no effect of the local currencies of the local currency use on the environmental knowledge and awareness of users compared to non-users. In fact, both groups tend to have quite high level of environmental awareness and knowledge before using the currency, such that having some environmental awareness and knowledge is more a determinant rather than a consequence of the use of the currency. Similarly, we find no effect of the use on local currency on the organic and local consumption shares of users. In fact, people tend to convert into units of local currency only the amount of euros they were already spending before using the currency. So for instance, if one used 20 euros in local businesses that accept the currency, then this individual will only convert 20 euros in unit of local currency, such that he or she will be sure that they will manage to spend the currency units within participating businesses. So we have more symbolic rather than structural change. For most users, the means of payment change, but not the underlying consumption patterns. So that's the first quote. In fact, using the currency does not change the consumption habits because most users already frequent participating businesses before using the currency. But we find some effect on the demand for environmentally sustainable food purchase. In fact, users of the currency tend to consume more meals with plant-based alternative to meat and less with meat. And so, in fact, this effect through interview is driven by self-constrained users, those who obtain more units of local currency than the amount they would have voluntarily converted. In fact, because they obtain more units of local currency, they have to find new ways to spend them within the network of participating businesses. That's this quote. In fact, having more units of local currency than the amount they would have voluntarily converted push them. So they have to find new ways to spend their unit of local currency. Otherwise, they cannot reconvert this unit into euros. In fact, these self-constrained individuals are more likely to be higher income individuals, and this aligns with the sociology of money literature. In fact, those who those who get self-constrained users can afford the risk of ending the month with some remaining unit of local currency, while people with lower income may have the fear to end the month with some unit of a currency they cannot spend for all expenditures. And so that was quite interesting to see this distinction. So briefly to conclude, yes, we discuss our result within the environmental psychology and consumer research literature. So for voluntary users, local currency are a kind of identity labeling tool. Users can show by using the local currency that they support the local businesses, they are environmentally engaged in some ways, but they do not change their underlying consumption patterns. While for self-constrained users, the local currency can be considered as a self-regulation tool. If they want to increase their share of local and green consumption, having more units than the amount they would have by themselves chosen force them to increase their local and green procurement. So in fact, we show in this paper that even if users of local currency tend to have already high level of green and local consumption, local currency may increase this consumption pattern even among already environmentally engaged individuals. That's maybe a limitation of this paper. We only look at very specific users as we compare comparable users and non-users, and it will be very interesting to look at the effect of local currency on populations that are not already environmentally conscious or engaged, and that have maybe more margin to change their consumption pattern. And so the approach adopted in this paper paved the way for future research as we try to adopt a kind of methodological eclecticism. We adopt data collection mode to the need of the study, and maybe this approach may fuel some studies that try to collect longitudinal data, but also that try to quantify the environmental impact of local currency beyond the effects. We only look at specific effects, but we do not look at the variation of environmental footprint, for instance, or concrete quantification of these effects. So I think that's it. So yes, thank you very much for listening.
And thank you, Leo. So about your paper, it's already published? No, not yet. Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah. I forgot because you need to use your microphone also to talk.
The systematic literature review has already been published in the Journal of Economic Survey last year. So the first figure and additional figure are available in this paper. So
okay, that's good. So I have some questions, but I can do later after Leonardo. Thank you, Leo. Do you have a presentation? Yeah? Okay, so let's see. And here, I think that you sent to Renato, is that right? Okay, Renato, you're online. Please share with us the presentation of Leonardo. Can you do that?
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay. That's fine, don't worry, it's okay. Renato is helping a lot with the organization, but he is in Portsmouth University. He's not here, so. Yes. I think that he's going to share with us, Chris.
One minute.
While he's putting the slide, I think I can start a little bit. My name is Leonardo. I'm from FGV here in São Paulo, and I will present two pieces of work. One I developed with this group of professors is more theoretical, and the other part is some results from my PhD research. I'm an economist, but I study public policies, and I'm studying these social currencies by the optic of the government, of public policy instruments. But we have a group in FGV, it's a group that studies special purpose money. I will start the presentation from here, because this concept, I don't know if you guys understand, but in general terms, it means currencies that they are not imposed by the state. So you will see in my presentation, sometimes I use social currency, community currency, local currency, alternative currency. So for example, Professor Jerome here, he will have some definitions about the difference of these currencies. But the idea of this first part of the presentation is to see all these schemes as an umbrella innovation. So, Renato, you can go to the next one, please. So this image here is from a paper that is published. It's from some research from our research center. And they look the design principles of the currencies. And this is literally the principles of design of a currency. But they look at in a theoretical way. And in the paper that we are in a process of publication, but we are trying to see this model in currencies that were already implemented. So there's a little jump between theory and implementation, and I will explore a little bit this in the beginning of this presentation. But what they bring for us that we can see. The design principles, the theory about design principles, they have four, we can see here, four big groups that they call dimensions. You have, when we think about community currency and the design of this, it's not a list of a to-do thing, but it's more things that we should take a look when we are implementing or designing a community currency. So there's these four big dimensions: contexts, goals, mechanisms, and evaluation. And I will open a little bit these dimensions because inside each dimension, there's these elements, and they are very important for us, both to design a social currency, but also to understand the project, to evaluate the project. Renato, you can go to the next one, please. Renato Roberto. Renato, perdão. This comes from meta-analysis. I will not speak too much about the method itself, but a meta-analysis is a method that we can, it's kind of a literature review, but it's not. But we can search for the papers that study this phenomenon. We found 38 papers in the last 5 years with 40 different implemented community currency projects. And we use this meta-analysis to theorize about the concept of community currency design. You can go to the next one, please. So inside these 4 big dimensions that I mentioned before, there are the elements of design. And then that's what I want you guys to take a little bit close look. Because I will first try to say a little bit about the theory, and I will bring small examples. And then next, I will bring examples from Brazil. But when we are thinking about the community currency design principles, at the beginning, what the literature says is that we should look both to the economic environment and the institutional environment. Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Maricá case in Brazil, but I will bring this example so we can understand. In the case of Maricá, it's a city in the state of Rio, they receive a lot of money from the royalties of the petroleum they produce. And they used to be a very unequal economy, a local, a municipal economy. And the mayor, he thought, oh, we receive a lot of money. We have some poverty, inequality. So how can we manage to mitigate these problems? This economic context is specific, and you can have another situation that you have another kind of problem. So when we're thinking about the design of the social currency, the context of the economic context, the political context, it will matter for why you want to design. And the institutional context also matters, because what the authors they are saying about the institutional environment. Sometimes you have formal legislations that will say how you should design these currencies. In Brazil, for example, we have 2 federal legislations about payment method and also about social currency that they say how the social currency should work. So when we are thinking about the design or the evaluation of a social currency, we need to have in mind this context, both formal but informal also. Because in the case of Maricá, what they realized before is that there's a cultural thing they put, it's a Brazilian cultural thing, that we like to use cards. We don't like to use the paper. So they thought, oh, why we are doing a paper coin, a paper money, if maybe people will not use it. So that's why both formal and informal institutional environment, it matters when we are designing or evaluating a social currency. Then we go to the next dimension, which they call goals, and inside we have purpose, scale, and scope. Purpose, for example, in the case of Maricá, one of the purpose was, we have a leakage of money. We receive money from the royalties, but normally they didn't have a local, a good local infrastructure for commerce. So normally people used to go to other cities and they used to spend the money in other cities. So the mayor thought, if we create a currency for us here, they will not go to the other cities because this currency will be restricted here. And when we are talking about this, we already talk about scale. Because normally, A local currency, it's limit in scale by neighborhood or by the city, but normally there's not a big scale of these schemes, but will depend of the purpose of why you want to reach. Scope, at the other hand, is the services that you can provide with the currency. For example, in the case of Maricá, the currency is used to pay cash transfer policy, and there's a lot of different commerces that can accept this kind of currency. You have grocery stores, you have stores that sells clothes, you have people that provide services, for example, cab, and these people, they can accept or not the currency. So when we are talking about scope, is also a decision, thank you, is also a decision of the person or the group of people that are designing this project of community currency. Next one, please. Another dimension is the mechanisms, and that's very interesting because, for example, when we are talking about mechanisms, we have 3 published elements: governance, architecture, and features. And it's not good here, sorry. But we are proposing another element inside this dimension, which is operationalization. Governance, it's the decision-making process. So, for example, the cases that Jerome brought, that Liu brought from France, sorry. They are generally not linked to the local state, like we see in Maricá. So normally the governance is the community or some ONG or some institution. But here in Brazil, in these big cases that we are seeing, it's not a case of support from the local government, but it's the local government that is creating and maintaining the community currency. So the point is, you can have different levels of governance. It can be very concentrated, or it can be a governance that is distributed with the society. Architecture, our colleagues also brought that, for example, in France, most cases until now, they use paper. So that's one example of what is architecture, how you design this currency, what kind of technology or innovation you are using. Can be paper, can be digital. If digital, you can use card, you can use transfers, so it will depend. And architecture, governance, purpose, they will all influence the features. The features is, the author says, the technical aspects involved with the project. So, for example, you may ask, oh, how we will pay for all this infrastructure to work? And because you have the users, but you have the people that need to organize the currency. If you use a card model, you have to maintain this. So the features will define all these characteristics. And operationalization, which is one of the things that we are suggesting, is literally this routines that will make the currency work. Because you need people working, because sometimes, for example, I will come back to the contest. In Brazil, you have a lot of people that does not trust on the state, on some institutions. So you need to bring trust to the currency, to the innovation. So sometimes you need to put people on the street to talk with other people, to convince them to use the currency. And this will require money, human resources, And when we see the implementation of this operationalization element, it comes to us. Evaluation, the authors put evaluation can be before, can be after, can be to improve something that is not working. So there's different mechanisms that you can use. And another element, I think was before, that it's not in this published paper, but we are suggesting also is users' practical of navigation, because sometimes in these schemes, you have one of the things that the scholars did notice. You have a lot of people that need specific things, for example, glossary, but you don't have enough glossary mentions to provide this. Or sometimes you have different kind of users. We will see that later. And the designer or the person that's evaluating should also understand the characteristics of these users, of these people that are inside this scheme. Can go to the next one, please? So that's the framework with all the elements that I just spoke. We can go to the next one. And I will bring two cases so I can give an illustration about what I just spoke. I'm studying two cases in Brazil. Maricá is this main example, and they implement the currency maybe 10 years ago. And after Maricá, there's a lot of different cities in Rio, they are implementing currencies also. So we have this example here. It's Caboclinho is the name of the currency. It's from a city that's called Iguaba Grande. And we will see that these elements of design, you might change a little bit, but the outcomes of the cases, they will be different. The case of Caboclinho, they are very centralized in terms of decision making. So we are talking about governance right now. The mayor, he decide all the current, the public policy design. And one thing that he could see in his city is that they don't have a solidarity economic movement there. It's a very small town. And when we talk about Maricá and when we talk about Niterói, they have a huge solidarity economy movement. Not the case of Caboclinho. So in the purpose of the currency, they put, we need to use the currency to alleviate poverty, to mitigate the problems of the COVID-19 pandemic. They implement in 2021 and 22. But they don't say anything about solidarity economy movements. In Niterói, we will see after, they have a huge solidarity economy movement. So one of the purposes of the currency in Niterói is to develop the solidarity economy movement of that city. About users, we can go to the next slide also. The users in Caboclinho, in Guaba Grande, they are mainly the people that receive the cash transfer public policy, which is a local one. So you have the Bolsa Família for the Brazilians, which is a federal cash transfer policy. But the city, they can also create their own public policy for cash transfer. And in the case of Guaba Grande, they create this, they pay 160 reais for all vulnerable families there, but they don't pay in reais, they pay in caboclinhos. And so we have one group of users. And these users, they need to go to the commerce, the local commerce, to spend this cash transfer policy. So you have the local commerce, which is another group of users. We can go to the next slide. But in the case of Niterói, we see it's different because they put the solidarity economy movement inside their public policy. So, in the case of Caboclinho, they don't charge a fee for every transaction. This normally is normal inside this kind of innovation because, as I told before, we need to maintain, so we need money for these cases. But Araribóia, Caboclinho, they don't do that. Araribóia, they have a 2% of transaction fee they charge, but this 2% is not for the payment of the infrastructure. This 2%, it comes back to the solidarity economy movement. We can go to the next one. Here I have a small image of how this works, because they have something that they call Araribóia circuit, which is basically street market feiras. Basically not, I'm very wrong about that. It's street market fairs. They have a forum, a kind of organization. They realize courses for example, people that are in vulnerability, but for example, bakery, they did this kind of course. They have a kind of a public call. They ask everyone of the city that needs this kind of education, and everyone that wants can go and participate. So, in the case of Caboclinho, we have two different users, but here they expand the public policy, the currents, the social currents, and you have another group of people that also can use the resources that are being invested in this currency. And in the case of them, they pay 345 Araribóias. One of the design principles that we also need to think is who is the one that can convert this social currency money in reais. In these two cases, the only one that can convert is the commerce, the merchant. The users, they need to use the Araribóia currency or the Caboclinho currency. They cannot transform this in reais. We can go to the next one. And when we see these different design principles, there's different kinds of outcomes also. There's different kinds of people that are being beneficiary of the public policy. They scale. We can go to the next one so we can have a little bit of the idea of the scale. Is strongly different. This column is Niterói, and this one is Araribóia. So in the case of Niterói, the last result we have 2023, the scale, it was more than 16 million reais. In the case of Caboclinho, is 400,000. So you have a huge scale and a small scale. But why? Because the characteristics of the local economy, they are completely different. The characteristics of the amount of money the city hall can invest in these schemes, they are different also. The size of business that can accept the currency. We are talking about some 100 businesses in Guaba Grande, and some thousands, more than 5,000 in Niterói. So, of course, you can reach more people when you have a bigger scale, but you cannot have a big scale if you don't have the infrastructure. So these two examples, they kind of illustrate how different purpose, how different design principles can generate different outcomes according to what you are looking for. We can go to the next one. yeah, I think that is it. I hope it could be clear for you guys, but if you have any questions, I'm here to help, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. It's very interesting, your presentation, the cases that you brought to us. Yes, Maricá, and the other one, I forgot the name, Iguapa Grande. Yeah. So we have like 5 minutes to, it's not, I know that it's not so much time, but and just to have some questions about the last presentations, the 3 first presentations, yes. So we need to talk on the microphone because people from which are online can hear us, can listen. And
so, hello. Thank you all for the presentations. I have a question, but it's for 3 of you. I was thinking that maybe I think it's easy for me to understand the reason why someone develops a government or some enterprise, some company, or someone decides to develop the currency, the local currency. But I was thinking about the people that receives the currency. For instance, people that receives some support from the government, and instead of receiving the money, reais or euros, they have to receive a complementary currency. How do they feel? Do you know if they feel that that's not, oh, I would rather have some reais or some euros instead of this local currency? Do you think it's easy for them to understand the purpose, the importance of this local currency, or they only have to accept that because it's better than nothing? That's curiosity.
which one is going to answer?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think when we are talking about community currency, we are talking about trust and the connection between the users on the society with this innovation. Let's talk a little bit before. Jerome and Leo, maybe they will explain this in a better way. But this community currencies, they start to be implemented by the state very much after the community itself organize them and create the currency. When the community, they organize and they create the currency, for example, you have the case of, I think it's the EUSCO, is the French case. One of the purpose of EUSCO is, if I'm not mistaken, is to support the use of the local language. So normally this currency is not just about the money itself, but there is more. That's my point. So when we are talking about the cases of Brazil, answering the question, before it came from Palmas, which is a community in Fortaleza. It was just an association that created with no support of the state. And the idea was that, let's support our association. This went to Maricá. Maricá, they kept the same discourse. We need to support our local currency. So they tried to talk with the users. They tried to bring trust to the currency and say, oh, we are not just giving this cash transfer policy, but we are supporting our local commerce. We are supporting our people. We are using our money inside our local economy. So normally you need to bring this trust trust with the people. We can think about kind of an imposition from the local government also. I don't think one thing exclude the other, but I would say we should think in that direction. If my colleagues have more things.
Thank you, Leonardo.
Very briefly speaking, in the case of France, people are not obliged to receive a local. They do the choice of converting euros into a local currency. So this can be the EUSCO, yes. Or they do the choice of self-constraining themselves, as Leo said. So this is already a matter of trust and building the legitimacy of the scheme to the eyes of the people who will use them, but they are never obliged to do that.
I think that you answered the question, but yes, people believe in the value behind the currency, such that in the case of the lien, they some way constrain themselves, reduce the number of businesses in which they can make purchase, because they believe that we have to support the local economy. So, but yes, we do not have any opportunity to get more money through local currency as in Brazil and France. So maybe this frustration can happen in Brazil. I don't know. I think Leonardo answered the question.
Thank you very much. So, Marli?
So congratulations you all for the presentations, very interesting theories and cases. From what I saw,
Hello, do you hear me?
there's a lot of different kinds of complementary currency, and it's a very interesting perspective to design taxonomies, typologies, because it seems very context dependent. And in your presentations, at least, who design or who is in charge of? So in France, it's poorly linked with local context, but in Brazil, it's totally dependent of local context, the complementary currency. And it seems that impact the design. So here you don't, because it's linked to the policy, actually, to retain the money in the city, in the local, so we cannot convert, because it's the principle. If you convert, you can expand in any other place. And in France, the case you presented, for sure, is part of the confidence on the complementary currency that you can change for Europe. The other thing that one is who is in charge of. And the second one is, I think it's, for me, it's important, it's the aim of the complementary currency. So, for us, it's interesting to understand sustainable aims linked with the green currency or other names, but for us, social currency, because the social impact, the social justice involved, it's important. So if you think that when trying to make research on this field, it's important to design taxonomies or typologies, and which are the main characteristics that can split well this complementary currency in the design. So I'm not sure if I'm clear, because as you are talking, these ideas was coming in my mind, but it seems that it can. Jérôme yesterday present a taxonomy, but I remember it's not linked with who is in charge of. And I understand that there is room for research on new grouping, clustering, and so on. So that's it. Thank you.
So maybe briefly to who is in charge of the design in the case of French local currency, most of them are citizens, so group of citizens yes, have an idea of, and they have a need of developing a currency, and so then they develop their idea, and because of that, the design of local currency in France is also very context dependent. So, for instance, we have the case of the USCO with the support of the Basque language. We may find some other example. And so one interesting thing is that in some case, because we have many famous and the popular local currency in France, some cases are developing only to just have their own currency. And so that's a case that I study. So using the theoretical framework on design principles, it will be interesting to speak about it. And so it's interesting because at the beginning they have some idea about the design of the currency. So they want to make something like the USCO, but because of the context, so the local economy, but also of the institutional context, they have to adapt the design of their currency to enable the circulation of the currency, to let the currency come into being. So at the end, the initial and design and the design of the currency effectively in circulation were very different because of the institutional pressure, the negotiation to develop the currency. So yes, I think that it seems that the aim of the currency may also evolve over time, if I do not say any mistake, but to satisfy all stakeholders within local territory. So from my point of view, we have this ideal design that evolves over time, that is linked with operationalization too, but yes, it's something that evolves and the aims evolve too. So the project that I have in mind at the beginning has as aims focused on environmental sustainability. But because they want to reach a lot of people, they have to extend the range of businesses that are allowed to accept payment in unit of local currency. And so it dilutes their environmental aims within the social and economic aims. So we have this hybridity of purpose, and sometimes these are in competition, and so it may make evolve the design of the currency. So I hope it answers the question, but maybe.
Messi. That's a very interesting question because answering very directly, who is in charge? In the case of Iguaba Grande, as I told, the city hall is in charge. So the mayor, he decides the design of the currency. He decides what kind of things could be bought with the currency. But in Niterói, it's completely different. You have, of course, the city hall that has the decision. But in this case of this charge, this 2% charge that comes back, you have the Economic Solidarity Forum of Niterói, which is an organization, and they have the decision, they have the authority to decide about who will participate in this initiative. So we have, I showed the picture of the people of the street market. Normally it's women that work there, according to our results, our outcomes. Women that exercise more than one activity, they normally work at home and they need to do more. And they could participate in this public policy because we say governance. The governance is shared. You have the city hall, you have the solidarity economy movement, and when we think about operationalization, because this also is who is in charge of receiving people, who is in charge of saying, oh, you are vulnerable, you can receive the cash transfer policy, or you are not vulnerable. In the case of Iguaba Grande, is the public employees. So it's the city hall itself. In the case of Niterói, it's employees of an institute that's called Instituto de Dinheiro. It's a fintech from the community, and they work with the users, they work with the city hall. So I'm just talking about these two cases in Brazil. They are public policies, but you can have different kinds of governance infrastructure. So it can vary a lot. Just the merchant, yeah. Just the merchant. That's the idea, yes. You keep the money inside, the merchant it can convert, but the users no.
For sure, I was mentioned related to the convertibility of the money in the public cases. You cannot because they want you spend the money there. But the governance in both cases are different. It can be another variable. So the idea of the kind of actor actually. Public actor or businesses or communities change the way you can convert or not, how it impacts different variables in the design of the complementary currency. Okay, that's the idea. Depends on the variable, it will impact in some part of the design. So when I mentioned the public actor, related to the locality, so the way you convert or not, it's important.
So thank you for the questions and for the comments. We are late in our schedule. Sorry, I saw that Christian is already with us. Thank you all, and thank you, Christian, to be here also. And I'm just thinking that we can have like 5 minutes break here, yeah, because we start like 9:30, and after that we can go straight to Christian talk. Is that okay for you and for all of you that are online? Is that fine? Okay, and
that's fine. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. 5 minutes break, and you'll be back. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So after this short break, yeah, and unfortunately, people are online. It's not here with us. Have a coffee and have a shot. Yeah, maybe next time. Okay. So please, if you want to start, Christian, so please, your time. Thank you very much for being here, and so we can start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I have to apologize because I cannot be here in the full session. And I am in a conference here in Berlin. And it's very intensive with, about climate topics, and the Ministry for Environment has invited us for a day every year because we are part of a program that's called the National Climate Initiative. And we have applied for one program. That's the program Innovative programs for climate action. And here we have applied with the climate bonus. So we didn't apply with the regional currencies. That was not possible because it's existing for more than 20 years. So it's not new and innovative. But the idea of the climate bonus, that was an idea to combine local currencies with carbon dioxide measurements, with carbon dioxide reduction and climate action. And I want to tell you about our additional projects, which we have started 7 years ago, and we have some experience with this kind of project. And I was asked to tell you about the combination of the climate bonus with the Chiemgauer case. And yeah, for the beginning, we can go on the global level and see, okay, what does the humanity do? And we all know we destroy the environment. We have deep social problems. We have the rich and poor, tensions, and here I have one study about the state of the finance for nature, and the study stated that we have $7 trillion of investments every year, and 7 trillions are harming the nature. So that's with side effects on the nature, and only $0.2 trillion per year are invested into sustainability or sustainable investments, sustainable products and goods. And even these $0.2 trillion have also side effects on the nature, because a solar module and a windmill is also damaging the nature. But you have the difference. It's a total different footprint, and our idea was, how can we increase sustainable investment, and how can we decrease investments which harm the planet and harm the human relations. And when you transform it into a few to one person, then you have in Germany a consumer spending of 17,000 euros per year and person. And from this 17,000 euro, you have 1,000 which goes into organic food, original food, into bicycles, fair trade, buses, trains, renewable energy. So you have the same situation. More than 90% is not sustainable, and only a small part can be framed as sustainable. And here comes the climate bonus into the game. And first we asked, how can we design this project? And we have two perspectives on the design. The first perspective is a scientific perspective, to say, okay, when we create a real laboratory, what do we have to do? We have to clarify the challenge within the boundary conditions of our planet, and to define what do we want to achieve and what is the challenge for us. Like, okay, investments, to increase investments or consumption which is more sustainable. Then we have so I hope my microphone and everything is okay for you. You are okay? Perfect. Thank you. Then you have to clarify, who participate, and how do we create the knowledge for this kind of project, and what rules and what conditions do we establish, and how do we apply the knowledge what we have. So we have a lot of knowledge, but how do we apply things like the knowledge about climate reduction or climate goal of 1.5 degrees yeah, how can we implement it in concrete measurements? And for Germany, we have objectives here with carbon dioxide to, yeah, when the green line, the orange line shows the path for Germany, and you see, okay, we have a decline. But when you look at 2023-24, that was point of examination, and we had a scientific study which examined how much reduction do we need to achieve the Paris Agreement goal with 1.5 degrees or nearly 2 degrees, and then we see, okay, we have to do a lot more to reduce carbon dioxide to achieve the goal, which we all agreed as a world community, and yeah, we are far away from these goals which we set in Paris. And the green line is in principle very similar. It's for the city of Traunstein, and I want to show you the case of the city of Traunstein because we had established a cooperation with the city of Traunstein, and the first thing was that the city wanted to know how much carbon dioxide do we emit. That's on the right side. That's tons of carbon dioxide. On the left side, it's gigatons from Germany. So you see, in 2023 we had about 800 gigatons, which was emitted, and I hope I have the right number of teratons. So 800 million tons of carbon dioxide. And on the right side, you have the tons for the city of Traunstein. So it was 200,000 tons. And then it was reduced to 180,000 tons. And the goal is to emit on zero. That's climate neutrality of the city or the country. And that's the hard part here. And it was interesting to see that the city of Traunstein made a climate action plan, and they wanted to achieve something. And then we came into talks with the city of Traunstein, and they agreed to make a carbon balance for the city. And that was, so we have the climate bonus. It has 3 parts. The first thing is to measure carbon dioxide. We say to it, that's our climate club. So we have some members of the climate club who want to be pioneers for climate neutrality. Then comes the part of climate action that you reduce carbon dioxide. So you have a high emission of carbon dioxide. Then you took measurements like riding with a bike or like using photovoltaics panels on your roof or ecological electricity and insulation of your house. And then when you have done climate action for your company or for your private household, then comes the regional climate fund, and that is combined also with our local currency. First, the climate fund has to be filled, and the climate fund is filled by people who want to compensate some carbon emissions, and we proposed a price of 50 euros per ton carbon dioxide, And when you emit as a person, for example, 2 tons of carbon dioxide, then you can compensate it for 2 tons times 50 euros, so it's 100 euro to pay into the fund. And from this fund, we try to look for another measurements to reduce carbon dioxide. Yeah, so the third thing is to measure it, and there's the greenhouse gas standard, and that's a method to measure the emissions. So we have direct emissions, we have indirect emissions. So I don't explain the whole concept here. You see, okay, we have emissions in the company, we have electricity, what we get from an electricity company, that's scope 2. And we have all the goods and services which we buy, and also the goods and services which we sell. And that's scope 3. And these parts we try to measure, and the hardest part is scope 3, because it's quite complex to have all the goods and services which we buy and sell. And when you have done it, and then you have a result. And we have done it for the city of Traunstein, and you see in scope 1 they have emissions of 900 tons of carbon dioxide. In scope 2, that's electricity and other things. You have more than 1,700 tons. And in scope 3, it's only 86 tons of carbon dioxide, because the city doesn't produce anything. So they use a lot of fuels and a lot of electricity, a lot of gas and for heatings. But they don't buy too much, and they don't produce very much. And then we try to think about measurements for our climate fund, and we have identified seven different measurements and possibilities to reduce carbon dioxide, which is easy to handle. That's like a balcony solar panel. Another example is renewable energy instead of normal electricity. Then to insulate your flat with sustainable materials like wood, and I'm here in a project, and I'm in a straw house. So that's interesting, because you don't use any fossil materials. It's natural materials, and that's more sustainable, of course. And therefore we give an incentive when you use things like straw. And another possibility is to install electrical or electronic thermostats, because you have control of consumption of heatings and energy. And we have measured the difference between bikes, pedelecs, and cars, or other things which emits carbon dioxide, and car sharing, for example, which is better than to use an own car. And yeah, the city of Traunstein emits 2,700 tons of carbon dioxide, and when they pay 50 euros for 1 ton, here we had 2,800, and they paid 140,000 euros into the climate fund. And then we calculated the measurements here and said, okay, we give 100 climate bonus for balcony solar panels, or we give 50 climate bonus for the change from normal electricity to renewable energy, or we give 200 bonus for the insulation of a flat, and so on. And that was the result that we supported 70 balcony, not balcony solar panels. We supported what you see here in the first line, photovoltaic panels on the roof of a house. So that's bigger ones. That's about 10 kilowatts installment power, or peak power energy, and they got 2,000 climate bounty per house, and so 70 households got 2,000 climate bonus, and that was 140,000 climate bounty. And when you calculate it here with the table, it's 13.68 tons per installed photovoltaics panel on a roof in 20 years. And so we decrease emission of carbon dioxide by nearly 10,000 tons of carbon dioxide. And that's a lot of more than the 2,800 tons. So we have something like a buffer that we can say we balance at least 2,800, and of course it can be 3 times more or 4 times more. And now comes the local currency into play. We have established it 2003 with cash currency, and afterwards with digital currency. So I don't go into details here with the currency. You can read it afterwards on my presentation. And we have. Maybe somebody can mute his microphone. That's better, thank you. Or maybe it's a signal that I have to stop. And but I go not into details because we don't have too much time here. But you have to know that we have a paper currency and we have a digital currency. It's 1-to-1 to euro, and we have an exchange fee of 5% when you want to change back into euro. We have euros as in the fund to change back, so it's not a mutual credit system. It's a euro-based currency design. And we also have a circulation incentive. That's an extra feature. And and we give Chiemgauer to a person who installs a solar roof panel on the house in cooperation with the city of Traunstein. So the city of Traunstein give us 2,000 euros, and we give the person who installs it 2,000 Chiemgauer on a regio card. So they get a card with a magnetic stripe topped up with 2,000 Chiemgauer, and then they can buy in the Chiemgauer network. And they have 2 possibilities. The first one is they go to a shop which has a device with the regio card, and they directly accept a digital payment with the regio card. And the second possibility is you can go to an exchange office, and the exchange office gives you 2,000 or 100 Chiemgauer in cash, and this 100 is taken from your regio card. And when you spend it, it's not the end of the story, it's the begin of the story, because the business who who gets the Chiemgauer, they think about to spend it again, and the next one is also thinking about spending it again, and then you have a circle with Chiemgauer here, and I have done some statistics for it. So we have given 400,000 Chiemgauer to households in Traunstein, and most of them have never heard of the Chiemgauer before, or have never used the Chiemgauer before. They may heard about it, but they never used it. And they have all spent it, and the circulation was 1.2 million Chiemgauer, and the investments were 4 million Chiemgauer. So the city have given an incentive which give an impulse for investments in with 4 million euros. It was mostly paid in euros because you have solar panels from China and some handcraft and big sums of money. Some were invested in Chiemgauer, but most were invested in euro. But they, as cashback, they got Chiemgauer from us. And 48,000 tons carbon dioxide were reduced, and 350 households were involved. And that was 3% of the population of the city of Traunstein. And I also had I have tried to measure the effect in the city, and I have found that we had a plus of 42% on the installation of photovoltaics in comparison to other cities. And the effect on the investment in batteries was even higher, 78% more than in other cities. And the costs were only 12 euros per ton of carbon dioxide. And these costs, the advantage for the city was that it was kept in the city. So it was not spent at Amazon or for oil or for something for global goods. It was spent in a local currency circle. And I also calculated the contribution to the climate plan. It was about 7.5% in these years. So the city has to do a lot more, but yeah, it was one building block for the climate action plan of the city. And yeah, that was the short story of our experiment with the Chiemgauer in combination with the climate bonus. Thank you.
Just till now. Oh, thank you, Christian, for the presentation. Is that okay? It's working? Yeah. And my suggestion is to have Alison, actually Renato and Alison, the talks of both of them. And after that, we can have some questions and comments. Is that okay for you and the others?
I have to look. When do we do the questions?
Yes, we're going to have like questions like in half an hour.
So I will come back in 20 minutes because I'm in the conference.
Okay.
And
all right, okay. So, and maybe we can just have the comments and questions to Christian now, yeah? And after that, we can go on with the other talks, okay? So, any comments, questions? Yeah?
So thank you very much, Christian, for your presentation. So I have two questions. The first one is, is the experiment still implemented today? And if not, do you plan to re-implement this experimentation, or to make it more, yes, to make it run over time? So that's my first question. And my second question is linked with the question, the question on the frustration. So are some people frustrated to receive a large amount of Kim Goer? Because in fact, for them, maybe the 2,000 Kim Goer received as a reward does not have the same value as 2,000 euros. So do you have some evidence of it or not at all? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your very good questions. And the first one is the city stopped the program in 2024. They reduced the budget for many things and had some financial restrictions and said, okay, we tried to give an impulse and we stop it here and we have a look what happens. And we have seen that the climate action and the installments of solar roofs has decreased very strongly. And of course, now we have another debate. What can we do to improve the climate action in the city? But the topic of climate action is also decreased. So we had a lot of discussions here in Germany, and we had a government change, and the priority of climate action is lower now. And it's harder with local communities or local authorities to implement such programs. They do less with climate action. And yeah, that's a political scenery or a framework. And but it's still implemented. So we also have companies who give money into the climate fund. And we have found a few bigger, middle-sized companies, and they donate their carbon footprint. They have a carbon footprint for the whole company, and they donate money into the climate fund, in the Chiemgauer Climate Fund. And so it's we have enough funds to spend more money for balcony solar panels, for electronic thermostats, and yeah, we have more money that we have applications for the rewards, and then we need a few months or a certain time, and then we have spent it again, and then we go to companies and say, okay, please give more money into the fund. So it's also always a balancing thing. But of course, when you have political backing for this topic, it's much better. Yeah, but the climate fund is working, and we and even if we have no funding from the government for our employees, we have the fund and it works. And the second question was frustration when you get Chiemgauer, and of course we had in the beginning talks with people who never heard of it or used it the first time, and they had all had to registrate at our website for the card. And there was some mostly accepted it and said, okay, the city has decided with a democratic decision, and this, the city council members all voted with one vote for this program with the Chiemgauer part. So nobody was against it. And I would say 90% of people who got the money said, okay, it's a decision and it's a gift from the city to us and our employee, and explained, okay, you get Chiemgauer because it's good for the local economy, it's good for local business cycles, and they accepted it and have spent it 90%. And then we had 10% which had more discussions, and we also had a few, I would say 5 to 7 people of the 300 who said, no, we don't want it. We want euro. We want euro. So please explain me how do I get euro? It can't be that we get Chiemgauer. Okay, so it was a longer discussion, and in two cases I phoned with the person, and we had a longer talk together, and in the end, my employee or me said, yeah, you have a decision. You have a decision. You can apply for this program, or you don't have to apply for it. Why do you apply for this program when you don't want it? And then he said, yeah, I want the money. And then we said, okay, that's a condition. And in the end, he said, okay, give it to me. I have no choice. And I had one discussion with, and he said to me, I have also a small company, and I have a small store in a small city, and when I buy something, I always go to the discounter, but I want more customers in my small store. So it was total paradox, and in the end he said, yeah, okay, you're right. I should spend more with the local stores, because I'm a local store by myself. and another case was similar. They tried hard, but in the end they said, okay, there's a food store, there's a big shopping house for the Chiemgauer and other stores, and we also supported some, because we also had one person who got 9,000 Chiemgauer, and that was a really high amount. And we supported them to talk with the energy optimizer advisor. He accepted 2,000 Chiemgauer. Then we talked with building material shop. They don't accept Chiemgauer, but in his case, they accepted it one time for him, because they said, okay, we get another customer, and we accept 3,000 Chiemgauer, and then they registered for the Chiemgauer, and the day after they quit it again. But we had a solution for this case. So sometimes it was a bit difficult, but if you see 350 people and 320, it was absolutely no problem. Then 2025, we had some discussion, but they accepted, and in the end, they said it was no problem. And then we had 5 where we had a really hard fight. And yeah, that was the story.
So this is very interesting. So thank you. And so I have a last question maybe. So I look at your paper, and so you look at the effect of the climate bonus program on installation of solar panel, etc. But in fact, you may have 2 different effects. So the one on the installation of solar panel, but also the effect of receiving units of Chiemgauer. And it changed the consumption pattern, for instance, of the shop owner that you speak about. So do you have a paper or some, do you try to write a paper on the effect of, not the effect of having the reward, but the effect of, giving a lot of units of Chiemgauer to people who do not have using wants, and who do not have any legal or environmentally sustainable consumption patterns, and the effect of having this amount of money on their patterns, but also on their environmental awareness, for instance, etc. So more at the user level.
Yeah, it's not easy to make a research design to cover these questions, and I I tried different things. So the first one was to a comparison of the installation of solar panels in the city of Traunstein in comparison to others. So to see the climate effect. And I have seen some effect in the years of the subsidy and before and afterwards. And another design was more statistical to see how much turnover was made in the city of Traunstein. And I have the data for 20 years. And I made an econometrical comparison with the local unemployment and have seen that we have some statistical evidence that you have some reduction of local unemployment in combination with the Chiemgauer. It's in absolute numbers, it's very small. It's only, I don't know, 16 persons who were employed, but it's a very small amount. So we have in the city of Traunstein 1 million or 1.5 million Chiemgauer in circulation, and that can be translated in 13 employments, and that's one of our biggest effects in the region. And I have I had my conclusion that we see an experiment here which works and where we can see a statistical effect. But of course, to see a bigger effect, we need a political decision that the city spends in local currency. Then we would see a bigger effect. But when we see in this small case that it works, then I would conclude that when you have 10 times more in the spending of local currency, it would have a much bigger effect. And of course, then we have the question, do the city of Traunstein accept taxes in Chiemgauer? Do they spend their local spendings in Chiemgauer? And we have all these legends and all these small examples where we see that cities have spent something in local currency, where we have seen some effect. Yeah, but it's very hard to see it in a statistical form which is accepted by an economist community, and that's not too easy. We have I don't know if you are familiar with some papers. We have different papers, or I have read different papers. They are very interesting, and we have some evidence in maybe 10 or 12 papers where we see some effects. And Jerome don't know if you have reported about the French example. It's small pieces, and but what we are missing is that we have a real long-term political decision to have 10% of a local budget of a local authority to spend in local currency year for year. And I would say after 10 years or 15 years, then you would see a real effect. And of course, Worgel, you had 1 year of an effect, but there's much legend and a myth in it, because you don't have the data and the statistics for it. You have only 3, 4, 5 numbers, and then you can conclude, it was very, very successful. But it's not hard proved in a scientific kind of context. And I tried it a little bit with the Chiemgau, but it's a very small amount, and so the regional effect is of course very small.
Thank you very much. And maybe if you have some oil royalties like in Brazil, it may help to have some long-term funding. So Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Leo, for the questions. And thank you very much, Christian, to be here with us and to answer the questions. And that's a shame that you are not going to be with us this morning, but maybe next time in Brazil. Yeah. And thank you. So now I think that we are just late in our schedule. So I will ask Renato to take room and present.
Yeah. And I have to go to my conference. Maybe I'm managed to come back a few minutes after, but yeah, I wish you good success.
All right.
And next time I hope I can get into the full session.
All right. Thank you and have a good conference.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Renato. I'm a PG student at the University of São Paulo, and also I'm a visiting research at the University of Portsmouth here in United Kingdom. I go to present about the green social currency experience from Brazil. This is part of my research. The first moment I'd like to introduce what is the green social currency. Basically is a stimulate for the communities or cities selecting material recycling in change for this green social currency or green tokens. And after the residents can buy products and services in this community. The system is so important because is of course is the complementary currency, but with this system it's so important because generating environmental sustainability, the social inclusions and economic development. Here I showed a timeline about different initiatives around the world in different years about the green social currency. I'd like to highlight in green, these initiatives continue operated, but in red, the initiatives no longer exist. The system I analyzed in my research was started in 1990 here in Brazil, in Curitiba, not just a green social currency, but you have principles about the green social currency. Basically, in Curitiba, the residents separate the recyclable materials and change direct for the fruits on vegetable. This situation was so important because after the years and currently, a lot of cities use this system, but not change directly. The residents can use the green social currency. Here in my research, I present different countries that use it or use it the systems, for example, Netherlands, Kenya, Belgium, Portugal, and Brazil. I'd like to highlight the last three green social currency in Brazil because it's part of my research, and I will to introduce it with more detail about these systems. According to FGV, was made a research to understand what the purpose of measures you'd like created in Brazil, and the more than 38 municipalities propose the green currency. We can see in Brazil's map in green circle, this municipality probably you'd like to create this green social currency with focus 25 with focus in recyclable material, and most important impact in recycled material and change foods. In red circle is the complementary currency, the idea is to create. What is the principal difference than cities have the green social currency than cities not have the green social currency? The cities not have the green social currency. Normally, the residents go on the marketing, buy the product, use these products, put on the garbage, and after this product go to the landfill. But when they have the green social currency is different because, of course, the residents go on the market, buy this product, after using this product, select this packet, after change in specific points for the green social currency, after can buy products and services on local marketing. This recycling extend of the life of the circle material and generate different impacts of ecological transitions. Now I would like to present about the 3 cases that I studied in my research. I analyzed second data and I made a lot of interviews, but I will go to in August to visit this location to create more contact and interview different actors in these different cities. The first case is Moeda Verde in north of Brazil, in Amazon area. Was so interesting because it was created in 2018. A group of the residents analyzed the problems about the garbage. Imagine, well, we need to resolve this problem, and we created this green social currency. Basically, the residents separated the recycled material after can receive this green social currency and use it in more than 15 small business. It's so interesting because, of course, create a social bank, and the social bank stimulate the microcredit. For example, a small business can receive this microcredit size 100 or 400 green social currency and can invest in your business and can pay with recycled material. We can see in slides a lot of data then generated about this green social currency. And this initiative, it's so important because showed the impact in one area that had a good connection with the natural. Here we can see different photos about this case in North. Now I would like to present other case in São Paulo State. This was created in 2018. In this city was created different the first because 3 actors founded the green social currency. The first was the municipality, the second NGOs, and the last one company. Ever have one contribution, for example, the municipality opened the city, the NGO manager about the project, and the company put the money. Basically, in this city, stimulate the residents separate recycled material after change for the green talks and can buy products in one specific stores. During the first moment with this green social currency, generate a big impact in the city, but after when it changes for the governments, the green social currency not stop completely, but reduce the impact of the city. And now return with more impact in the city. I think it's so interesting to analyze this timeline in this green social currency. Here we can see photos about the project. The first in the top as tokens, the store, and the residents go on the store. And the last case in the south of Brazil, the name is Pila Verde and Pila Azul, was created in 2020 in Santiago. This is the different foundation, the first and the second case, because the municipality created this system and basically stimulated the residents change organic wastes and recyclable material for different green social currency. Because when they created the pilot test, imagine, well, so let's go to the residents change for organic waste. After a period, analyze, well, we have a great impact of the community, so let's go to create the second green social currency. The first green social currency, in the case for the waste, the residents can change for organic products. And the second, the residents can exchange for different services in the city. This system generates a lot of impact in different areas and the circulation of the money. The total, the small business then accepted this green social currency in the city is about 47 small business. Here we can see photos about the project. To conclude, throughout the three initiatives have different origins and governance structures, but share several characteristics. In the circle, we can see the common characteristics: local economy circulation, waste manager and circulate practice, social engagement, the government arranges public politics integrations, and behavior change and aways. Consequently, the results in these cities analyze have a good impact with environment outcomes, improved waste manager recycling and environmental awareness, economic outcomes, stronger local economy, integration and support for local business, social outcomes, community empowerment, social inclusion, and strong cooperation, institutional outcomes, erasing coordinations, governance, capacity, and politics integrations. Well, welcome for your questions and feedback. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Renato, for the presentation. And as you see, Renato is developing his thesis about social currents. And the idea is to create some categories to analyze these different cases. In one of the categories that we are just suggesting in a paper that we are going to present in Operations Management Conference, which is by the end of this month, it's this category of driver, exogenous and endogenous driver. We assumed that when we have communities creating, the initiative is from like internal, in terms of local communities, is endogenous, yes. And if it's like a municipality or the government of the municipality is more like exogenous. And it comes from, it's not, obviously is not outside of the municipality, but it's not something that comes from the community. It's in development, yeah, still in development. So comments are very welcome, yeah, Renato. And thank you very much. So my suggestion is to go on with our presentations. Alison, a presentation, please. And after that, we can talk more about this last two presentations. Thank you, Renato. Alison, you can share your...
It's working?
Yes, it's working. It's not like full screen, but it's okay. You can see already. Okay, now it's full.
Hi everyone, thank you for this invitation. I'm a postdoc of the CZIP at USP, of course, and I'm currently a research visit here in Oxford. The idea today is discuss a little bit about system think. It's like another mindset about the other analysis discussed before. So the first mindset that we can discuss is social course transition is not linear. We have a lot of feedback driving in this system. For example, we have a lot of actors, stakeholders, environments, banks, social banks. So this mindset is so important to understand why apply system think, all right? So, and why we can do that, and why and how we can do that. So we can first identify some challenges. For example, we can identify feedback loops, time delays, multi-stakeholders, no linearity, as mentioned before, and what system think offers about it. So we can identify endogenous explanation. We analyze that the behavior emerges from model structure, not for external shock. So we can identify two dynamic hypotheses. For example, we can develop some assumptions and explain that. And after that, we can develop more robust and systemic analysis. And also we can involve some stakeholders in the modeling, in the process before start one real implementation. And other contribution when we apply system think is the policy design. Is so useful for use policy analysis, future scenarios, and well, but I think that is so important to understand the landscape of system approach. We have a lot of system approach, but what tools we have in the literature applied before and when we can use that depends of the context. For example, we have the CLG, the causal loop diagram. We applied before this diagram in the CZIP, and we have three papers on review, one cleaner production, another in the business strategy and environment, and the ecological industrial ecology. So we developed with stakeholders the qualitative analysis. We cannot hear that is based just in qualitative analysis, and we don't apply quantitative analysis. So the other approach that I'm developing here is the social network analysis. This is just for mapping some government network, identify isolated actors, identify one graph about all the system involved, specifically about one transition or specifically about one development, or depends of the focus of the research. So another approach that's is part of the system thinking is agent-based modeling. I think that, in my opinion, to be honest, this is more complex because we're talking about individual heterogeneity, so it's not easy to understand that and include that in the modeling approach. So we have a high data demand for that, and it's more indicated to use for micro-level system. And here we have system dynamics, and we can answer some questions, for example, how this system behave of the time. So we can develop stock and flow analysis based on mathematical approaches. We can simulate some political scenarios, feedback delays, and this is the idea to discuss today. We have one model development. Is like a scope modeling yet, but the idea is to work in this model to obtain some important results. So about this system dynamics is more aggressive. So it's like agent-based modeling that is more heterogeneity. Here we're talking about macro level simulation. We're talking about country analysis or situ analysis, for example. And just to a quick understand about but how this work or how develop one model based on this system dynamics. The first concept about it is that one stock, we have here, for example, two stocks, and all the stocks have one flow, like one input, and other or not have an output. So this is the idea. The stock work is like an integral. So this is the main mindset here because the stock is like an inertia. So we have the equations to define the flow, and after this is like an input for the stock. So for example, we can develop models like that and validate some reinforcement loop or balance loop. I think that is to understand that when we define what is a loop, and one example more practical about this loop. For example, if you have more adoption, this more adoption increase the more visible, and the more visible, more adoption. This is like makes sense for us. So this is like exponential growth or a collapse. So we have a balancing loop too, is like a decrease, it's like a negative causal effect, negative feedback. If a system resists the change, in this case, social currency, if the community or the city or the municipality resists the change, This is creates a stability oscillation that the change can grow. So this is one simple example about balance loop. And we can also identify the time delays. This gap here is so interesting because we're talking about, for example, infrastructure delays. We know that it's so easy to understand, that's so common. You know that infrastructure delay is so a long time for waiting for that. So it's so different about the user habit change in months. So we have a delay. We're talking about infrastructure investment in the other scope, and we're talking about the user habits change a month and infrastructure in years. For example, don't have one time delay here. Let's talk about one applied example. This is, when I said before, is one model that we try and develop for applied in the USP, in the campus of the Butantan. So the idea here is, this is like the scope of the model. We have data about the inflow, the population use, the outflow, and the input inflow and outflow. So we have admission rate, we have turnover rate. This is the baseline of this model. So about the population of USP, this data is so easy to access. It's like available. So this is not a challenge in this model yet, but I think that we can see here that it's so simple yet. So we have included a lot of actors, a lot of the constants, variables. But here, just to exemplify one application about system dynamics, we have the population that increase the new adoptions, and we have one stock that define the quantity of adoptions, and we have the lot adoptions. So we can put a lot of auxiliary variables, for example, adoption pressure, church coefficient, for example. So we cannot hear that it's applied for social coherence. This is the main idea here. This is the main mindset of the discussion. So we cannot hear too that this is a started model, so we can develop and include a lot of variables to be there more interesting, more comfortable, for example. Here we have some assumptions, model parameters, but it's not validated yet. So, for example, we have some assumptions for the population of USP, for example, but the scope here is modeling policy scenarios for this model, considering the current year until 2040, for example. So what you expect with this model? So this is the great question, for example, a lot of work, and what is the output, for example? This is just a simple example. We can analyze the time of causes based on time, this modeling, and the quantity of adopters along the time. And the loops is here, oscillation or stagnation, for example. Yeah, so we can analyze here based on the variables include oscillations, delays, feedbacks between adoptions, and balance loops, for example. That is like a challenge to increase the quantity of social currency in the USP, for example. So the key takeaways that we cannot hear is the social currency transition is a feedback driving, as discussed before. And the choice of the right tool for the right question, this is so important. I mentioned it before, a lot of approach. We need choice the best approach for the best problem, of course. And we cannot adhere to that SG approach provides explicit dynamic hypothesis. So we cannot, the endogenous effects could be modeling in one computational mathematical analysis. This is that I'm explaining today. Thank you for your attention, and suggestions are welcome, please. Oh.
Thank you, Alison,
Thank you.
for your presentation. So, any comments?
Thank Thank you for both your presentations. I would have one question to Renato. We are happy to see you because we know you are since the beginning behind everything here, but you were the invisible man. So you talked about the case of the Pila Verde and Pila Azul, and that's a very interesting but strange case in which there are two currencies. And so could you just tell us if they are connected or if they are completely separated? Is there conversion possibilities from one to the other or what? Another question is for Alison, because you talk about feedbacks, and I completely agree with the fact that using or adopting a currency in any case is a matter of feedbacks, but it's also a matter of maybe of spillover. I mean that when adoption rise, the rate of adoption can accelerate. Actually, I don't really manage to formulate this properly, but having a very small number of persons leads to a small incentive to use that. But when the number of users rises, the incentive rises too, and this can lead to an acceleration of adoption. So is this included in what you call a feedback, or is spillover something a bit different? Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start. Thank you so much, Jerome, for question. It's so interesting this case in Santiago because, of course, you have two types of green social currency. When they start the pilot test, the governments would like to understand the impact of the city. For stimulate the residents, the first moment it's necessary to generate a banking or a guarantee for the system. And the first moment, analyze the organic waste. It's so important because if you select this material, after can use it to the farmers, farmers can use these systems in the end. And you can see the circle of the circulation of the money, because the residents send the waste material, the governments create the adobes for farmers use on the farm, and the farmers can sell this product on the market, and the residents can buy with the green social currency, and you close the circle. This moment, the government announced, well, we have a good opportunity to improve more these systems. Of course, the community analyzed, well, have the problem with the general recyclable material, but I think the point was about the banking. How's the guarantee for the recyclable material? After the government analyzed the system, check, well, we need to create two types of the green social currency, because if you, of course, we receive the recycled material, what you can offer for the final destination? And they analyze, well, we can offer different types of services in your city. For example, the public transportation, if people have a car and need to rent a specific point for the government, can pay with this Pila Azul. And the governments would like to create these two types of the green social currency, which is different types of services. One with focus on foods, and the other with focus in services. I think this is the principal difference. But I think the government is very open about innovation. If you analyze, well, we have the opportunity to, in one unique green social currency, offer these two types of services and products, we can create one unique green social currency. But today, I think is works very well, these two types of the green social currencies.
So no connection between both. They are completely separated.
Yeah, the separate. I think it's the final destination. The Pila Azul is the service, and the Pila Verde is the foods. I think is this the principal difference.
Hi, Jerome. Great question. Thank you for your question. It's open an interesting discussion because, for example, if I'm modeling one is that working? My connection.
Yes, I can hear you.
Stop it here. Okay, I'm still talking then. So, for example, if I'm modeling the USP campus, for example, in the quantity of users is like a maximal equal the quantity of the students. So this is like the system dynamics work is like with dynamic assumptions, for example. If the quantity of users is equal the quantity of students, I think that, I don't know if you listen the right question. But let's suppose this like equal the quantity. So we need to change the assumptions or change the dynamic assumptions for these models or increase the boundaries of the model. For example, the case that I showed before, I'm just talking about the USP, okay? But let's suppose if the quantity of the users is equal using social currency. So we need to expand the model and analyze a level of city or a level of country and consider other assumptions for the model. I don't know if you are answering your question. The connection. Can you hear me? That yeah?
Yes, it's good. It's good.
For me, it's like you lost your connection.
No, no
Yeah.
problem.
No what is happening anyway.
We can hear you, Alison. I think that it's okay. Yeah. Jerome is saying that it's fine.
But it's just the message here. You lost your connection. Try connect again. I don't know what is.
No, I think that we can hear you. That's fine. And that's one of our microphones is not working, and just one microphone. So that's why it's take a little bit to get the microphone and turn on again and everything. Okay. So, any more questions or comments?
So thank you very much for the two presentations. I'm sorry I missed maybe some discussion because I have to go to the bathroom, but no, that's fine and I can focus on the discussion. So I have a question especially for you, Renato. One bit provocative about the two figures you present at the beginning with the waste cycle with green social currency. So in fact, we can see that by having the green social currency, it allows users to get some money when they exchange some waste to reuse it within the local economy. But is having some green social currency ensure that the wastes are well recycled? For instance, we can think about some. So for instance, I give some plastic waste to a company. They give me some social currency, but at the end they just burn the plastic. They do not recycle it. So yes. So what about it? And my second question is about the Moeda Verde. So you say that they made some microcredits in green social currency. And I wonder where these microcredits can be spent, if they can only be spent in some green businesses. And also if, so yes, they receive the microcredit in unit of green social currency, but in fact, they do not make any behavior such as waste collection or other thing to, so in fact it's not really a green social currency in this case, or so what about it? So do they have some constraint and cannot spend the money everywhere they want. So I need some information about it. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, Lau. It's so interesting about the microcredit because if the entrepreneur uses this system, for example, 100 or 400 green social currency, after 6 months, the entrepreneur can pay with the recycled material. Of course, if he would like to pay with the money, reais, it's okay, but the system stimulates this entrepreneur paid with recycled material. I talked with 5 entrepreneurs about this microcredit. It was so interesting because it changed completely the life. 100 green social currency in this system because the city is so poor. The entrepreneurs can invest on your local business to grow your productions and receive the money. Other great point is about change the behaviors about the impact of your work and when the impact with the recycled select material. It's so interesting because one woman cried about this story because she never had the opportunity to go on the bank. But in these systems, the social bank stimulate people not have the official entrepreneur, but after you receive this microcredit, these people receive a contribution about how can grow on the marketing and how can improve your business. I think so interesting because change completely these microcredits in this system. The first question you told about the circular economy in the residents then use the system, it's so interesting because this transform a lot of residents. Of course, a lot of people survive with this system, with select material recycling, but rich people then not necessarily have used the green social currency contribute because they separate for the people then use this system for survivor and stimulate in the city connections with different levels of the society. I think, of course, reduce the impact of plastic and other type of material, but create a connection with the city because it's the small city, it's not the big city. And as well, I'm not necessary to use this green social currency, but I can help people then use it. And consequently, I create this behavior, and I think I change my ideas. When I go to visit these 2 cities in North and South, I would like to talk with the residents on the street. Oh, stop 1 minute. I would like to understand your point of view about the green social currency in your city, to understand the people, if you have or don't have this behavior change about the green social currency. This is one point then I would like to analyze in my research.
Thank you very much for the answer, and I hope that we can pursue such discussion all across the project. And,
yes, of course.
Sorry. So, sorry, I think that I just interrupted you, but I have a question for Alison too, because there is a paper from a former PhD student in Brussels that use agent-based modeling to understand the decision to participate in some mutual credit system. And I wonder if you are aware about it and if you plan to build upon this model. So as far as I understand, you are not going to look at agent-based modeling, but if you want to, because it can be interesting to compare the different type of models because it's allowed to, so I don't know if sometimes different type of models are used to validate each other. So if you have the same result with 2 different type of models, then these results are robust. So yes, if you have more information about it.
Thank you for your contribution. Yes, it's a nice idea. This idea is we can say that's like a hybrid models. So we use some results of different approaches, budget modeling. For example, it's like complementary modeling. System dynamics with agent-based modeling. It's like the results we can use the both approach together and obtain some results. Nice idea. This is could be one plan for this project. As I said before, it's just begin the project, so we have a lot of work to do that. So I need to find one undergraduate alone to develop this model, obtain data for that because it's no easy. I'm here working with other focus here, so I need to organize my time to still work on this project. Thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you and good luck for developing the models.
We have another professor that is in charge of agent-based modeling. That's Lucas from Unicamp. So we intend to, now we are working on the circular ecosystem modeling, and that's the idea. I start with this project to engage the complementary currents in this simulation part, and Alison started to think about, but it's not core in the project, and we started to think also in the gamification part because it was not there. But when we started this project, USP-COFECUB, we think that we could link these two parts in this project. So maybe we can discuss later, and you can share this paper you mentioned. Okay.
Yes, for sure. I think that there are some
and
room for,
I can discuss with Lucas the paper. Okay.
Yes, yes. So yes, I just want to say that I think that there are some room maybe for such modelization or simulation, because this paper that I spoke about, so it was the first paper, to the best of my knowledge, that used agent-based modelization. But during the RAMIX Congress, some PhD students, for instance, have the project to develop such simulation. So maybe that's helped to address some data limitation, or I don't know, but for some reason, many researchers are interested about it.
So thank you, Leo. Thank you for answering all the questions, Renato and Alison. Any other question or comment from people here or online? And yes, I think that Renato, so he's right now in the Portsmouth University with Diego Vasquez Brust, which is who is a long-run colleague of us, yes, a long partnership. And Renato is going with Alison to visit Bristol in order to analyze the social currency in Bristol, and to interview some people there to understand more, to change the market. Thank you, Leo. So, and we think that it's a great opportunity that they are going to have there, and both are in the UK, so that's a good timing, yeah. And also, and Renato is also involved in an initiative of the municipality of Island of Wight, which is in the English Channel, and they are trying to, they are doing the first seminars in order to collect information, see people if interested or not in the implementation of complementary currency. That it's a very nice initiative, and let's see what will happen, yeah, in the near future, yeah. So I just forgot, because I'm going to see them, but it's there. They are seeming from, okay, sorry about that. And so, yes, so we are very excited with these opportunities, yes. And
Yes, I think it's so interesting because this island is one island here in UK. Have a group of the residents then you like to grow environmental environmental system here, and I think it's a great opportunity to this pilot test. I created 3 workshops, then I go to administrate with different groups of the residents because we would like to apply this pilot test. We received the funding, the university, to create this pilot tests. The focus is about help people to have a good foods every day and create the connection with the nature. I think this is is similar to Brazil, but at different points because they can stimulate the tourism here, the connection with the different healthy foods, and create the connections with the residents. I think this is a great opportunity here.
thank you, Renato. And yes, as we saw, so there are different ways to see the effects or impacts of the adoption of complementary currencies. And I think that we have a very good sample of different cases during the webinar, like environment impacts, more social impacts, and as Renato said, the green more related to packing reverse logistics in Brazil. And yes, so we have many things to discuss, and it's a food to talk. Yeah, that's right, food to talk. Exactly, yes. So, and thank you very much for being here with us, yes. And probably in the next days, all of you is going to receive a email asking permission to put the record of this webinar on our website of our University of São Paulo. And please let us know if you have any point or problem with that, yeah? And so thank you very much again, and it's a pleasure to have all here. So just a minute, because we're going to take a picture of us in front of the screen, I think, yeah? So everyone, you'll be part of the picture. The picture, actually. So thank you very much, and hope to see you soon, and have a great day. Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye.